This fat man is gaining flesh like crazy, and he's flattening the doctor on the sidelines. He grew bigger and bigger, and even became a giant. Then, he went to a residential building, and reached into a woman's home, for no other reason than to simply eat a chicken leg. He had to fart after eating and drinking. This scared the hell out of passers-by, because the fart was so powerful, and it was like a typhoon. The passerby took off straight away, and that's when a passerby lit a match, and the fart exploded. This scared the hell out of Jack. Luckily, it was just a dream. Jack is a university professor. He was overweight. His stomach kept rubbing against the blackboard in class. He was ridiculed by the students, but Jack never took it personally. He even wanted to eat a bar of chocolate to make up for it. And he's 35 years old. He hadn't been in love once, until he met his colleague Rose. Luckily, Rose didn't mind him. On the contrary, she admired his good heart. But then Jack started to feel inferior. In fact, Jack is so fat because of his genes, and his family are all big eaters. Today, Jack wanted to have a romantic date with Rose. He didn't expect Rose to agree to it. Jack was a bit surprised by this. It was soon the day of their date. Jack thought it was going to be a great night, until the stand-up comedian turned up, because he was always taking advantage of the audience's shortcomings to entertain them. Jack realized something was wrong and tried to run away, but he couldn't get away. The stand-up comedian said, "Your ass is like a bull, big and round, and that you're so fat that you can find a girlfriend." It was very embarrassing for Rose. The speaker had no intention of saying it, but the listener did. Jack was becoming more and more self-conscious. He felt he was making Rose lose face, but Rose was very understanding. She even reassured him that he was a very good person, not to worry about what people thought of him. But that night became the pain of his life. To make himself happy, he had to eat like crazy, but as he ate, he fell asleep, and that's how the dream began. After being awakened by fear, he decided to change himself. He was going to start losing weight. He started getting acupuncture. He even made himself a hedgehog to enhance the effect. The doctor told him it didn't work, so he started to exercise. He started to follow the girls in their weight loss exercises, but this was too inefficient a way to lose weight. Then he went to the lab and came up with a slimming potion, and after drinking it, a miracle happened. Jack instantly fainted and fell to the ground. The next second, it was as if he had shrunk. When he got up, he looked in the mirror and was amazed by his handsome face. Most importantly, he could see his brother. Jack was so happy to see his family he hadn't seen for so long. The slimmer Jack seemed to have a new personality. He became very confident. He bought a lot of tight clothes at the mall. He came to the gym and started to flirt with girls. After losing weight, Rose didn't recognize him either, so Jack said his name was Tom. He was Jack's best friend. When he saw the girl he loved in front of him, Jack went straight for it. What he didn't expect was, his hands got bigger. It turns out the slimming potion only lasts for a short while, and that was it. Jack was back to his old self. In order to get it back immediately, he didn't even have time to teach the students. He simply left after a few words. Then, Rose found Jack. She said, "I met your friend Tom, and he wanted to go out with me." To her surprise, Jack encouraged her to actively date Tom, and then he ran off. By the end of the night, Jack had turned back into Tom, and he had rented a sports car. He was instantly cooler, but because Tom was late, he kept Rose waiting for an hour. Rose was so angry that she left, but Rose couldn't resist Jack's sweet talk. Eventually they arrived at the bar, and Tom changed more and more. He's become a man of the world, and he fought back against the stand-up comedian who had mocked him, and he fought back, beat him up. After a while, the slimming potion was wearing off, and the buttons were falling apart. Tom had to settle the bill in a hurry, but his colleague recognized it as Jack's credit card, and immediately followed him. What happened next left him stunned. His lips have grown longer, and his legs and feet got bigger, and directly on the throttle, still in reverse gear. Luckily, Jack shifts back into forward gear in time, but the throttle still wouldn't let go, and his face had changed back to the way it was, because his body had gotten fat. He lost balance in the car, but in the end, it stopped, but because of the size of his body, he couldn't get out of the car. In the end, the fireman had to saw it off. The next morning, a colleague told him to stop drinking the potion because it has side effects. It can make you a different person. Jack took the advice of his colleagues, but what he didn't expect was, Rose had fallen in love with Tom. This also caused Jack a lot of headaches. In order to continue the love affair with Rose, Jack became Tom again, but Tom had changed completely. He was supposed to go out on a date with Rose, but then Tom hooked up with 3 girls, and that was a complete disappointment. At night, Jack saw the video Tom had left for him. He said, "I'll make you disappear forever." Jack was so frightened that he lost his appetite. He then rushed to the lab and poured out all the potion. Little did he know that Tom had already switched the drinks. Jack drank it and became Tom again, and he did the math. If he drank enough of it, Jack would disappear forever. After saying that, he knocked his colleague out. Then Tom started showing off to everyone and said he was going to make Jack disappear forever. Just then, the co-worker who had woken up came over and managed to stop Tom. Just as Tom was about to hit him, his fist grew bigger. The two personalities struggled with each other inside him and started slapping himself. Tom with his left hand, Jack with his right hand. Rose was also very surprised, but in the end, Jack overcame Tom. Jack realized his mistake. Then he left in disgrace. At this point Rose caught up with him. He asked Jack why he had lied to her. Because he was afraid that Rose would dislike him. So he hid it all from her. Instead, Rose said she needed a partner for tonight. Would you like to dance with me? And that's it. They finally got together. So, looks don't matter. It's confidence that counts.